feel this D-line? You know, we've been obviously going down and talking about different position groups each show. We know now that Stephon Tuitt has not been, a participant at OTAs just yet. But as a whole, we know we got new players in here. DeMarvin Leal being one of those guys. And at this stage, it's kind of like, all right, once again, how do we feel about the D-line group now that we know new information? Are we still confident in the group as it is right now? Or do we think that we need to go acquire outside help, regardless of if that's super high-end talent? We know with some bigger names out there available in terms of the D-line. Or if you're looking for maybe depth players, backup guys.
Right.
Those are some of the things that we want to focus on right here because, like I said, this is a position of need. I mean, it could be even more so a need depending on what happens, with Tuitt and how we view Tuitt in the sense of, do we think he's coming back or not? We obviously talked about that on Wednesday's show and kind of how we had different views on this situation. And this is also we're going to open the phone lines up for as well when we're done talking about it to kind of get your thoughts on it, to see, hey, the listener, the viewers, are y'all confident that Tuitt's coming back and y'all don't feel like we need to upgrade the room? Everything's good? Or do you think, what, even if he does come back, we need to go shop, we need to ask somebody? But either way, we'll give you guys time to, voice your opinions on this thing as well, man. But starting it out, man, with you, bro, how you feel, man?
I feel fine. Obviously, if Tuitt's back, that helps a lot. I think we have a really good defensive line unit, probably top 5 in the league with Alualu coming back, Cam Hayward playing at an all-pro level these last couple of years. But if Tuitt's not there, I do still have some confidence in it. Though. I don't know, out of 10, maybe it's in the 7-ish range. Because we have Alualu back, it feels like we're going to be a lot more healthy coming into this year, and we're going to get another year of Loudermilk under his belt. Well, him being his rookie year, this is going to be his second year, correct. So you're thinking a jump there. And you talk about new information, you said he's looking pretty good.
No, absolutely. Like, from what I've seen from Loudermilk, man, I definitely think that he's ready to take that next step. Physically, he looks way better. Talked about that as well. And then, he just seems hungry. And that's another part that's important. And talk about self-awareness. He was one of them dudes, man, talking with him, where he's already identified certain things in his game that he wants to improve upon. Kind of what we just said about Chase is like, man, how long does it take you to identify that, hey, this is a part of my game that's a weakness. This is a part where I got to improve upon. Talking to Isaiah, he's already there. He already figured this is what I have to get better at. This is what I need to do good. I'm really good at this part right here. And when you already have that, and you can see him putting the focused effort, the focused work into that avenue, to me, that's how guys really take that next step to really improve themselves. So I do think that he's one of them guys.
And he looked decent in spurts last year.
Yeah, without a doubt he did, man.
But then you also have guys like Chris Wormley.
He's come around.
He's just a safe guy. He's a safe guy. Like, if Tuitt's not there is what I'm saying. And Montravius Adams, he's more backup to Tyson Alualu.
Correct.
But, I mean, he's a nice piece. He was showing some flashes last year. And then we picked up DeMarvin Leal in the draft. He was supposed to be a first-round pick. We know he's super talented. I mean, he's a rookie, so you might have some growing pains there, but there's definitely reason to be excited. So then you have just the other depth guys in like Carlos Davis, Henry Mondu, Daniel Archibong, the other Davis brother. But like, out of those, before we get to like Davis and Mondu and that, Leal, Loudermilk, Adams, Wormley, Alualu, Cam Hayward. That's not bad. You know what you're getting from Cam Hayward. You know what you're getting from Alualu. If one of those three that we would probably have more in the defensive end role to replace Tuitt can like really step up, and I don't see why one of them can't. You have the safe play in Wormley. You have more of the upside guys in Loudermilk and Leal.
Yeah.
I don't mind that rotation.
Okay. Just to keep the conversation rolling, my question is this. A lot of these names outside of DeMarvin Leal were here last year.
Yeah.
But we did see how at times our run defense was atrocious, in how we know with the Devin Bush apologists, people will say, well, it's because of the group that was in front of him, right? No Tuitt, no Tyson. That was why.
It was probably some, what would you say, osmosis there, a little back and forth.
A little back and forth, yeah.
It was both. I mean, both were a part of that, right?
Yeah, but then I also think of, okay, if those are the guys that were there last year, and we saw how they struggled at times consistently stopping the run, I'm just kind of like, man, is it insanity to expect that to be different if they're put in the exact same position. Because as we said before, you can have a role player that's a beast role player, but now when you put that role player as the full-time starter, it doesn't look the same, right? With those guys that we just named, it kind of makes me feel like that. It's like, man, I like these guys in certain capacities, but when you're talking about them having to be the 17-game starter week in and week out, I do think it limits us a little bit. My other concern does go back to Tuitt, because with Tuitt is two things right now. Number one, we haven't seen him play in over a year. So what's the rust look like? The second thing is we haven't seen him play in over a year. What is he physically looking like? You know, like, because
putting in that work.
Those are two very different things in terms of athletically. Is he still the player that he was when we last saw him? And then number two, where is his body at in the sense of, is he healthy now as in good to go? Or is he still recovering from this knee injury, which Kevin Colbert did say, what was that, a month ago, whenever he spoke, or was it even a month ago when he last was talking about Tuitt? He was like, you know, he's still recovering from the knee and things like that. So for me, I'm just trying to figure out what version is even showing up when he does, or if he does show up. And that's the part for me where I don't feel as confident. I think that it still could be a very good group without Tuitt. Yeah. I think if Tuitt is back and it is the true Tuitt that we know mentally and physically, I think now we're talking about a dominant group potentially. But I just can't overlook those big question marks surrounding Tuitt and the ripple effect that it would have when now, instead of Chris Wormley, Isaiah Loudermilk being rotational guys, them having to be the full-time starters. That's the part where I get a little hung up on. And then even with Tyson, it's like, I still think Tyson's going to be a really good player and stuff like that. But I also have to take into account that he is a year older. We know he's not in his 20s. He's 30s. You know what I mean? In football, we know defense, you know, when you get in them 30s, you slow down a little bit. But he's coming back from an injury where he missed pretty much all of last season. What does that look like? How healthy is he? How good to go is he? What is that decline starting to look like in any capacity? That's the only reason why, for me, like I said, this uncertainty with Tuitt makes me a lot more uneasy. And when I get uneasy, that's when I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'd rather go shopping, and that gives me comfort. That's actually in real life too, man. Anytime something's going on, I'm a little antsy, I'm just gonna buy me something. Hence all the shoes.
Yeah, I think the difference between, or one of the differences, a couple of the differences between this year and last year is, as you mentioned, Tuitt, and I can understand concern, but he's been having the best portion of his career with the Steelers. And Cam Hayward's aging like fine wine, and I think he has too. Yeah. I don't know if maybe the year off could help him in a way, just, you know, maybe extend his career a little bit by a year or two. That could be a stretch, but he wasn't there last year. So I just think him being back is only going to help us. Yeah. So that,
and it definitely will help. Like, and when I say the drop off, talking about Tyson, we're not talking in the sense of, oh man, he's a horrendous player, he can't be that guy anymore. I'm just saying, when we saw how before he was hurt, that the previous year before he was hurt, he was dominant at times as a nose. Like, you couldn't block him, you couldn't single block him. All I'm saying is, when you're coming back from an injury after a year off of football,
I get it.
Is it going to be consistently like that? No different than Cam Hayward. Cam has been not just good, he's been dominant at times. So you always ask yourself, well, when is it going to just come down a little bit? And whenever that does, that's what I'm trying to account for, in the sense of, what does that look like? What will this group look like if it is just the slightest for Tyson? Because last year we saw, when Tyson was not out there, it was clearly a drop off. We could witness it. We could feel it. We can even point to some clips where we're like, bro, you shouldn't be back there with the linebackers. Why are you getting pushed that far back? That's the part where I'm just like, if Tyson isn't Tyson, those are the guys who are playing a lot more snaps now. Those are the guys that I don't want to play. I still want them playing, just not that much, because I think that less is more for some of these guys.
Right. Montravius Adams as the starting defensive tackle versus him as, you know, coming in just to spell Tyson a little bit is different. And yeah, I mean, Tuitt's the big thing, but I feel like Leal, man, I really like that pickup, because we already talked about him being a version of Tuitt. Between him, Loudermilk, and Wormley, you're going to get, 7-8 sacks? At least that's what you got from Wormley last year. Not saying he's going to do that this year, depending on his role.
Yeah, to me, Wormley is 4 sacks is his floor, 8 is his ceiling. I think that's consistently who he's going to be. we like them. I like them type players.
So, yeah, that's what I would say is the other difference then is just us bringing in a talent like Leao and also having another year of Loudermilk going from rookie to sophomore year and making maybe some of those improvements in OTAs because we talked about him being a version of Cam whenever we drafted him. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's going to be finally reaching some of his potential because we didn't even play him that much last year.
Correct.
Either. So if we want to talk about us not really stopping the run that well, I don't think Loudermilk was really a part of it.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No.
But whenever I saw him in there, I thought he did decent.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he made some impact. So it's just, all right, does he make that jump? Now, there are question marks, and I'm with you. I'm not opposed to going shopping. I just think I have a good feeling about the unit, even if it's not there.
Because it's a good group. Put it like this, the same conversation that we had prior to the draft about the receivers. We were like, man, we like the talent. We think that it's a good group, but is it missing something? Or even our cornerbacks. It's like, yo, we like, more so cornerbacks than receivers, excuse me on that, corners. We like the group. We like Levi. We like Akella. We like Cam Sutton. We like this dude. We like that dude. But it's like, is it missing something? Is this enough? Are we projecting too much, or is it too is it something that we're gonna need that we don't have because of what we're thinking right now? And that's kind of how I feel when I think about the D line. I'm like, yo, I like this group a lot. I think it has the potential to be really, really good if things work out the way they're supposed to. It's just when I keep seeing or having to keep talk to myself about, all right, that guy, this guy stepping up. A lot of moving pieces that a lot of things have to go right, or a lot of guys have to do what they're supposed to do. I just don't have that much confidence in the people like that.
Yeah.
Like when you start, if it was just one person, it's different. If all we were worried about was Tuitt, it's different. If all we were worried about was Tyson, it was different. If all we were worried about was DeMarvin Leal as a rookie stepping up, it would be different. If all we had to worry about was Chris Wormley being this consistent player, it'd be fine. Loudermilk, fine. Even Mondu, fine. But you see how many guys I just had to go down, and it's like, that's a lot to me. And that's why, like I said, I'm like, yo, I'm a shopper.
I mean, this is one of the positions where I said, let's not sign a cornerback and see how the offseason goes to see how if Tuitt comes back, or I also brought up left tackle. So it was either, all right, if we're not signing a cornerback, we got this available cap space. Mm-hmm. See how the D-line plays out. I mean, if you got to bring in a guy, do it. The same with the left tackle. If Dan Moore, if you're not feeling as confident in him as offseason goes on, maybe look to bring in a veteran at left tackle. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I still have some confidence, though. I do.
Yeah. So with that being the case, though, man, who would be some of the names? Let's see. Who's available? Who would we consider?
I mean, you could do...
We got, like, honestly, the D-line market is still nice. Like,
I would almost
in terms of high end, low end,
I would almost
younger.
Want probably more of the defensive tackle guy. I mean, you could even do that now, whether or not Tuitt comes back or not, because maybe we get someone a little bit better than Montravius Adams to rotate with Tyson. I don't think that hurt us.
I didn't.
Brandon Williams, Eddie Goldman.
Honestly, I looked at Brandon Williams and I was like, man, I like him a lot.
Dominican Sue.
Well, so this is my thing. I said if we were going Sue, I would only do that if I knew for certain I'm not getting Tuitt back, because I'm bumping him out and he's going to play that same type of role. The only thing that makes me nervous about Sue is at this stage in his career, he is setting who he is. And he is truly a get off the ball penetrator in terms of how he plays D-line. That's great in a 4-3. Not so great at times in a 3-4. But because of who he is, you know you're going to live with it because he's going to make some plays out of that thing. But at the same time, it will put a little bit of your LBs in a little bit of a bind. But very similar to Tuitt. Tuitt's game is very much like that. He's not the most gap responsible D lineman, but he makes up for it with his athletic ability. So when he backdoors plays or he's out of his gap, he's fast enough, rangy enough within the tackles to make certain plays. So yeah, I mean, to me, I think that Sue probably would be one of the better fits in it if we were going that route. Another dude that I looked at was Eddie Goldman. Now, obviously, he's a lot more expensive in terms of what it would cost to have him in that capacity. But I think that, number one, he would definitely give you size in there. He would shore you up against that run, and he can give you some of that pass rush as well, man.
How about Larry Ogunjobi?
I like him.
Little AFC North rival.
But what was going on? Because I saw he signed the big deal initially, and then I I forgot where he was going when he signed the deal, but then apparently they failed him from the physical or something like that. So he didn't get the money. It was something weird that went on with. That's why he's still on the market right now.
Oh,
yeah, because he had
that's what I was wondering. I mean, he's 27, a good player. I was wondering why he got signed.
He signed initially, and it was a nice deal as well, man. Would have paid him some M's, but whatever happened, he like failed the physical or something like that, and they ended up going back on the deal.
Yeah. Intends to sign a 3-year, $40 million contract.
Was a nice deal, bro.
With the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. But he's still a free agent.
Yeah. Because that was early on in the process, and everything looked like the deal was done. And then when he got the chance to go get checked out medically, they was like, nah.
Mm-hmm. I mean...
Because he is a really good player. Now, he's another one of those...
You get him on the cheap right now because of that. I guess he's got to get healthy.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what is going on with him to the full details of it. But I know the big knock with Larry is, number one, just consistency. But number two, his game is kind of think like Tuitt and Sue's in the sense of it's not always fundamentally sound. It's not always gap discipline. Like Cam Hayward, Cam is very, very disciplined in terms of gap responsibility. He's just one of those traditional, like, I'm going to be in my gap every time I make the play I'm supposed to make, but I'm not going to try to do too much. When you talk to it, you talk Sue, Larry Ogunjobi, those type of guys, they are wired a little bit the other way. They're like, I would much rather take a chance on making this play. Even if I miss it, I'm going to make it one of these times and it's going to be a spectacular play. Everybody's wired a little bit differently, but that's what you get with Larry. And sometimes, and to a lesser extent, he doesn't make those plays as frequently as a Tuitt or as a Sue when Sue is in his prime. That's part of the reason why with him also that, when you talk about a knock per se.
Just some other names to throw out there. Gerald McCoy, nah. Wash.
He's been hurt. No, he just keeps getting hurt. Remember the past 3 years now, he's had season-ending injuries either in training camp, preseason, or like week 1 of the season. Yeah.
Sheldon Richardson. Malik Jackson.
Malik is interesting. I just think that Malik is, I don't know. I don't think he's going to fit what we're trying to do, man.
Linval Joseph.
He would be interesting, man. He would. How old is he now, though? He's got to be up there.
He's up there, 33.
Yeah, I'm about to say he's got to be up there, man. The other guy I thought of was a star. Was it Loda Lili? Excuse me, from played with Buffalo the past couple of seasons. I forgot where he was.
Drafted by the Panthers.
Yeah. He was like, because he was down there with
He was an early round pick.
Yeah, he was a good player down there, man, and good player in Buffalo as well, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like maybe he could be that type of dude that could spell Tyson.
Yeah, and then when you're
vice versa,
when you're talking money wise, also it's still a good fit too. Like these, like I said, Eddie Goldman, he would definitely be a more expensive option, but the majority of those names that we were naming, they would be very affordable in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. I think Larry Ogunjobi would probably be the next most expensive just because of the age, him being like super young compared to some of these other guys, but. Yeah, any of them dudes that we've named, I do think in a certain capacity, certain role, they make sense. If Tuitt isn't available, you have a guy that can start. You have somebody that you're very confident in being out as the starter, but it also makes you feel more confident about your depth players too. Because now, instead of it being Wormley, Loudermilk, or whoever playing 80% of these snaps, now we're talking about them playing maybe 40% of these snaps. Big difference in the productivity and the freshness and just the way you're able to attack some of these offenses as well. So that's the part for me that I like, because if Wormley is your starter, when Wormley comes out, who's coming in for him? That's the other element of it. Yeah.
Or Loudermilk.
Yeah. So, but it's
they got that upside.
It's cool, but we're still projecting, right? When we say upside, that's still a projection. That's my only thing, man.
Yeah.
No.
Big question here. Steelers organization. What do you do if Tuitt doesn't show up to the mandatory stuff?
First off, let's go shopping. Let's make sure we got that order. And then after that, Tuitt. You look great today, Tuitt. Today's your day. Tuitt, we're going to take a little ride around the corner if that's cool with you, all right?
He's out in Indy, though. Do you fly out to Indy?
Yeah, man. We don't mind visiting you. We'll come visit you. We can take you to, St. Elmo's? Nice steakhouse. Yeah. So look, Tuitt, you go ahead and sit in this front seat, passenger side, all right? I'm going to just sit behind you. Deke, just drive us around the corner, man. And then we'll come back. It'll be 2 people in the car. No longer that person in the front. So I think that's how to play out, man. If he's not showing up to these mandatory parts, yes, I can see
cut him.
I could see something like that happening, man. You try not necessarily cut, because we know the numbers too, like money wise, it could have a little bit of a negative effect. But I do think that we could see some action if it gets to that point.
Fining,
yeah,
because that's what we brought up last podcast, where Tua up to this point hasn't.
They haven't done any of the hardball stuff with them.
He hasn't had any consequences for not showing up. And yeah, we're not taking light of the situation.
No, not at all.
Tua has had at all. But
yeah,
I mean, I think the Steelers are. You have to think they're getting to the point like, bro, we can't just keep paying you all this money just to not do anything or be productive for us,
and not even show up. Like, it's one thing for you to be, injured, but it's another thing for you to not even be around, and they're still paying you this money. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that can't keep happening in the business model with the salary cap league, because that's the biggest thing. If it wasn't a salary cap league, you don't have to worry about this. You keep them on, you do what you want. You just pay it out. But in a salary cap league where you have to be in compliance, that's maybe 2 to 3 players that are good quality players that you could acquire for his money right now.
Yeah, you're right. So just an update on his money situation. Cap hits at almost 14.
Yeah.
And the dead cap would be about 9.5.
Yeah. So it's not terrible though. It's not terrible.
That's maybe the amount that you could sign a dude like Starr.
Seriously.
And then you still have the leftover cap space to see how everything plays out at left tackle if you want to. Or maybe even sign an additional guy on the defensive line to maybe more take the defensive end type of role.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I typed in Stephon Tuitt. I was looking for his contract, but some of the big headlines here are people very optimistic of Tuitt being back. The one says Steelers are okay with Stephon Tuitt not being here. So should you. Let's see what happens during mandatory. I mean, mandatory is the real thing. Mandatory is the real cutoff.
How would you handle it then? That's the question. How would you handle it though? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to talk to him. It's like, bro, like, we understand everything that's happened, but us as an organization, we gotta move on one way or another here. We want you here.
But what if he
we
says?
Absolutely want you here.
In that moment, if he says, "Yo, I still do not know. I don't have an answer right now,"
then you gotta tell him, all right, we're gonna start looking other directions.
Okay.
Start looking other directions. Whether you, like you said, sign people, and then within X amount of time, maybe you revisit them within a week or two.
Okay.
Give them that time to think about it, and then you either gotta cut them, do something.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, if they don't ever show any urgency, if they don't give him the little, little booster kick, like, what's the incentive for him to even make a decision?
Yeah, right.
And if everyone is always going to say, well, man, we know what's going on, man, it's all right, man, just give him as much time as he need, then why for him should he feel the need to decide or even come back when it's like you can make that type of money and not have to play? Yeah.
Yep. We'll find out during the mandatory stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Dang.
Cam Hayward's optimistic. Tyson's optimistic.
I didn't even think of it like that, man. You're right. If he doesn't show up to the mandatory, how you handle it,
I guess that's got to be the point. We've talked this whole offseason of, isn't the point free agency? No, it hasn't really been.
Right.
The draft?
It's got to be the draft. No. All right. Not the draft. Okay.
Sometime.
OTA. When OTA start? OTA. We first week down? All right. No. That's voluntary. It's voluntary. Chill. It's voluntary. Yeah.
I mean, is it just going to be moved to training camp now?
It more than likely will. You know that. Hey, if the Steelers aren't upset with him not being at veteran mini camp, the mandatory portion, then you shouldn't be upset with him not being there, okay? Like, when? Why do I have to share their feelings? What?
Are we sure the Steelers feel that way?
Yeah, I know how I feel. I don't care about what they feel. I know what I feel. All right, yeah. That's pretty funny though, bro.
Kind of on the same page, right?
Yeah.
With this defensive line. Doesn't hurt to make a move.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have a little more optimism with Liao and Loudermilk or just some of those guys.
Well, and then I also thought of
Tyson being back, I guess.
Because you could always find that bridge player too, where they maybe not are the biggest of names where you feel like you sign them, they're starting right away. But maybe it is a guy that we think is just a quality, like a Tyson. Like when we brought in Tyson, it was like we knew Tyson was going to have a role, but he wasn't going to be the guy. But he was still good enough. We paid him a decent amount. Like, that's also that middle ground. So that way, if Tuitt is back, well, now you just have a very, very strong D line, and you're probably going to cut a good player that's young, but you live with that. But at the same time, you hedge your bet that if Tua isn't available, or if he comes back, but he's not the same player, he comes back, he's not in shape, he comes back, the knee isn't what it needs to be, well, you're still covered, because those are all the things that are still very much in play here. That's my whole thing. It's like, to have this like optimism that not only will he come back, but he's going to come back and be that same player that we last saw after a year away and this knee surgery that clearly is more significant than any of us even could have thought or dreamed of. It's just like, man, and is it becoming more and more unrealistic for me to expect him to be that version of Tua? Because those are a lot of things that have happened.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's definitely fair.
Yeah.
He's working in Indy, though. I'm taking Cam's word for it. Busting his ass.
Man. But
he doesn't have time to talk to anyone or let anyone know he's working so hard.
Now, him working back, though, is he working to get into shape? Is he working to get back from the knee injury, or is he working to be like, y'all, man, all pro shape now? Like, which part is it? You see what I'm saying?
Knee injury's good.
You see which part? Like, is this you working hard as a rehab, or you working hard as a strengthening, or you working hard as we're crafting skill now?
The rehab was during the season.
Well,
January,
it couldn't have been that long, because, like I said, Kevin Colbert, literally the last time he talked about Tua, which was still, it couldn't have been longer than a month ago. Could not have been longer than a month ago. He said Tua is still working back from his knee. And that's when I said to you, I was like, man, I feel like every time it's something new with him. Every time it gets weirder and weirder in terms of why and what and how they respond to him. They keep it positive, but it just doesn't, it's not adding up. So it couldn't have been that far. So the knee is in this vicinity in some capacity.
If you're the casino, if you're DraftKings Sportsbook,
all right,
Tua is on the Steelers week 1 and he's playing. He's back in his normal role. What are the odds? What are the odds you're putting on that? Yes and no. And what bet are you taking?
That he's gonna be out there. What are the odds?
Yeah. What are you putting for that?
Jeez.
Would you just make it 50-50?
No.
Like minus 110 on both?
No. I think you have to have it, the odds be heavily favored him not being there.
Oh, wow. So you would have it, what, like minus 200 or minus 300?
Low key, I was over here like probably minus like 500.
Minus 500.
He's still, bro, we did this in the whole season. We haven't seen him in the whole season. We haven't seen him in OTAs. We haven't heard anything from him, bro. What do you want me to say right now, man? And this is my guy. I hate the fact that I'm even having to talk about this. This is my guy. It's my guy. But I'm just like, bruh, what we doing? And I know him personally. So for me to know him not showing up, I'm just like, I know how Tua's mind work. I know what he be thinking about, and he's not showing up and they still pay him stuff. Okay, can I make it to minus 1,000? Okay, that I don't want to do that.
I think you got to take those plus odds. Then the plus odds would be
man.
Like what, plus 500.
That's all I'm saying, man. I'm just like,
put a little $10 bet on
like,
plus 500.
Man, this is my dude, but I'm like, I know you. You sitting on this long does not sit well with moi. Okay, and every time I say to myself, all right, they all getting optimistic that he gonna be there at OTAs. I'm over here like, and then he shows up and it's no OTAs, and I'm like, okay, I still know him pretty well then. I think I was correct. Then I'm hearing, okay, well, I was about minicamp. I'm like, what does it look like? Is he there as in like he's got his shirt on and he's walking around giving everybody the deuces, or is he like helmet on, he's actually participating? Because it's two different things. It's very, very different. It's very, very different. And I'm just like, yo, I kind of know what I expect to see if I even see that portion of it. But I know heavily what I do not expect to see in any capacity, and that's when that thing on buckled up and taking some reps. I don't see it happening, bro.
So no week 1.
That's just me, bro. I hate to say it because, like I said, this is my guy, and understanding what he went through, it hurts. Like, cause like, yo, this is just a dude. You know what I mean? Like, we done been through these things, man. But it's just like, yo, it's even when you are injured, you always show up. Coach Tomlin, that's one of his, as silly as the phrase is, he always says the first rule of getting better is showing up. You just simply have to show up, because you can't get better without showing up.
Right.
And it's like, man, he just hasn't been showing up. And the more you don't show up, the more it becomes normal. The more it becomes easier to not show up. And I'm just like, at what point does that change? At what point are you going to wake up and now you're incentivized to show up? Because clearly nothing has transpired to change that for him. Mandatory, not mandatory, voluntary, all this other nonsense. But it's just like, you still got to show up. And knowing that he did show up when it was voluntary, when he was paid, when he was newly paid, he still showed up. So when we talk about it being voluntary, him not showing, I'm just like, that's not the Tua that I know. The Tua that I know would show up for this stuff because it mattered to him. The Tua that I know would go out there and practice because it mattered to him. So the more I see him not out there, even when Tyson was hurt last year, Tyson would still be out there. Well, nothing he could do. He was out there. You could see him. He was present. So you can still tell matters. He wants to be here. He's a part of this. He's engaged. It's just hard to say that Tua is there in terms of his heart, in terms of mentally being there when he's just not showing up. That's why for me, I don't have as much confidence in it, man. I'm not as much confident, man. I wish I was. And I hope I am absolutely wrong with how I'm thinking. It's just, unfortunately, I haven't been as wrong as I would like to have been right now.
No, you're sharing your honest opinion.
Man. And it's my dude, man. You know, only time I'm a dude like that.